Today, Roger Brown is a mystical figure in basketball lore. Most Pacers fans never got to see him play live, and I would say that some still haven't watched his highlights. Most just know him as the guy who won championships in the ABA and has his jersey number retired and is up in the rafters at the Fieldhouse. In this video, I want to educate the people around my age or the people who just haven't looked into his story, so that we can really appreciate how great he was. Coming up in high school, Roger Brown was one of the most sought-after prospects in basketball. Him and Connie Hawkins were battling to prove who is the better player in New York. Roger would end up committing to the University of Dayton, hoping to compete for a national championship. But after it was discovered that Roger was around a gambler who orchestrated illegal point shaving, Roger would be banned from both the NCAA and the NBA. Now, it is important to note that Roger Brown was never convicted of anything illegal. He was just punished by association, and the NCAA and NBA banned him off speculation. This would take a big toll on Roger mentally. Everywhere he went and tried to play basketball, people would never talk about how great of a player he was, just how he was banned from the NBA. He played AAU ball for a while and was known as one of the best AAU hoopers at a significantly younger age than the guys that he was competing against. But one day, pro basketball did come calling. It was the Indiana Pacers off the recommendation of Oscar Robertson. Yeah, that Oscar Robertson is who told the Pacers about Roger Brown. And so Roger would be the very first player signed by the Indiana Pacers. I have already made a video talking about how good the ABA was as a league, along with the flashy and progressive style of play that the league had. So if you don't know what it was like to play in the ABA back then, or just kind of the vibe around the league, you should probably go watch that video or other videos that people have made, so that you can really get a grasp about what it was like to play in that league back then. Now, most of you already know about Roger Brown and the Pacers winning 3 championships and being regarded as the best franchise in ABA history. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that aspect of his career. But I do want to talk about how big of a playoff performer Roger Brown was. In basketball debates today, a big talking point is, do you perform when the game is on the line, and do you win championships? Roger Brown did exactly those two things. The 1970 playoffs is known as Roger's best playoffs ever and possibly the best stretch of his entire career. In 15 games, Roger Brown averaged 28.5 points, 5.6 assists, 10.1 rebounds, on 47% shooting from the field and 35% shooting from 3 while playing 46 minutes a game. The Pacers would win the championship that year, and Roger Brown would be named playoff MVP. This wasn't the only time he put up numbers like this either. Just the year before, Roger Brown averaged 27 points, 3.4 assists, 8.4 rebounds, on 51% shooting from the field in the 1969 playoffs. And then the next 2 years in 71 and 72, Roger Brown would average over 20 points, 4 assists, and 6 rebounds per game. So if you want to talk about a playoff performer, Roger Brown was the definition of one. But he was also great in the regular season. He was a 4-time All-Star and a 3-time All-ABA selection. Roger Brown was a consistent 20-point, 4-assist, 6-rebound guy from 1967 to 1972. And in my opinion, it's really unfortunate that they didn't keep track of blocks and steals during Roger's prime, because if they did, I'm willing to bet a lot of money that he had one, if not multiple, 100 block, 100 steal seasons. Roger Brown had a playing style that was very unique, especially for the late 60s and early 70s. He was one of basketball's first true positionless players. While he was listed as a small forward, he could also run the offense as a point guard or fit in the offense as a 2-guard. One of the Pacers' most common offensive plays at this time was just an ISO with Roger Brown. Give the ball to him and get out of the way. The way guys talk about defending him is like how kids talk about the boogeyman. The stats do not really do justice to Roger Brown. I mean, you look at his stats and you're like, oh, 21 points a game, like that's decent. Fringe all-star type numbers, but then you look at the rebounds, you look at the assists, how he was able to play make, and you look at how he was actually a pretty good shooter for his time. I just feel like the stats do not do this man justice. And I know we talk a lot about how, oh, if you take this guy from the past and put him in today's game, he would be so great. But I do honestly believe in my heart that if you took Roger Brown, prime Roger Brown, and put him in the early to mid 2010s, he would fit in with guys like Paul Pierce and Carmelo Anthony, only I think he's a bit more athletic than both those guys. Which I know might sound insane to say, but I'm going to stand on that take. I'm willing to die on that hill. Something that I would like to talk about here while I'm making this video, it still relates to Roger Brown and stuff, but a lot of times when I'm talking with people about the Pacers franchise, they'll start trash talking saying, you know, we've never won a championship. And then I'll say, well, we've never won an NBA championship, but we have won championships. And then they'll look at me like I'm crazy, and then I'll explain, you know, well, we won 3 in the ABA. And then either one, they'll ask what the ABA was, which tells me right away, you don't know ball, you shouldn't be talking to me. And the other thing they'll say is, oh, those don't matter. It was in a lesser league back in the 70s. And I think a big disservice we do to these guys who played in both the NBA and the ABA back in the 70s and 60s is we just assume automatically, oh, it was a long time ago, the competition wasn't as good, these guys will get absolutely smoked today, they were playing against lesser competition, you know, it's not like the game today, which is true that it's not like the game today, but if you give those guys the same equipment and the same upbringing, like if you take them and have them be born now and then bring them up, you know, how we usually bring up guys now, then they would be playing at the same pace and the same quickness with a similar playing style where it's more high percentage shots, corner threes, layups, less mid-range. You know, you get that typical 2020s, 2010s playing style. And that's how it looks. A lot of these guys were really athletic, and the athleticism would still translate. It's just a lot of stuff that we do now, they didn't do back then. A lot of the stuff that we have access to now, they didn't have access to back then. So I get really tired of, like, whenever I bring up Roger Brown or Mel Daniels or George McGinnis or any of those really great players that we had from those championship ABA teams, a lot of people just look at me and they're like, we don't care about them. Like, that was so long ago, that was in a different league, we don't care about them, they don't matter, we don't even know who they are. Which, it just hurts, like, it kind of hurts me. I can't even imagine how these dudes who actually played back then feel. But even me, like, it just hurts my heart to know, like, all the work those guys put in, everything they achieved, everything they did, is just getting discredited because they played in the 70s. Like, a big problem with basketball culture today, in my opinion, is that if you played before 2000, everything you did is just discredited because you played a long time ago. Especially if you played in the 70s and before. The 90s and the 80s still get credit, but they do get discounted from some younger fans and stuff, people around my age, unfortunately. And then more widespread is from the 70s and back, we just kind of discredit those players and don't give them their flowers that they deserve. So I wanted to take this time in this video to give those guys credit because they do deserve it. Like, they put in the work, they achieved great things in their time. They deserve credit. We should still recognize them as great hoopers because they were. I mean, watch, I've shown you in this video, Roger Brown playing. That dude was a dog back in the day. I mean, you can't deny that. He was an absolute dog back in the day. A lot of these guys, go look at Mel Daniels, go look at Roger Brown, go look at George McGinnis. I got a Darnell Hillman autograph right behind me. I met the dude. He's pretty cool. He was a high flyer. He could dunk like crazy. I mean, just go look up some of these guys. Go look Bob Nitolicky. I mean, that dude was a dog. We had a lot of dogs back then, and they deserve the credit. A lot of ABA guys deserve more credit, especially. And I do kind of blame the NBA for that because the NBA for a very long time just tried to push all that history to the side. Every dude who played in the ABA, your records don't count. We don't even want to make merchandise for you. We don't want to talk about you. We just want to make people forget about you. Thankfully, like now, they're recognizing guys more and giving them more credit. I really think it would be great if like Mitchell and Ness went back to making throwbacks. This is a Danny Granger, but like if they made throwbacks to the 70s and they put out Roger Brown, Mel Daniels, George McGinnis jerseys, I for one would buy them. 100% I would buy them. So I'm just saying we need to give these dudes more credit. We need to start recognizing them more, because a lot of people around my age and the next generation of fans are just going to completely forget about these dudes, and that should not happen. We need to respect the history of the game, because other sports like the NHL, Major League Baseball, and NFL are a lot better, and soccer, they are a lot better with recognizing guys from the past. And as a league and as a basketball community, we need to be better at recognizing these guys for everything that they accomplished and everything they did for the game. All these great dudes that you see now, they idolize somebody from the past. Person they idolized somebody else from the past. So everything that we see now is just the culmination of what guys have been doing for 70 plus years of basketball, and that's what we see now. So while they played against lesser competition or whatever, what you see now is only possible because of the bricks that guys in the past have laid. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, I'm Limitless Pulls. I'll see y'all next time.
Think what you can mix right, nigga, put it in the blender. Hell yeah, I'm Wingstop. Put on some chicken tenders. It's like the beef with energy and water like Kimber. Hey, turning, looking like dinner. It's like got the bad boy or girl.